To quote Kathleen Kennedy, "Right now, women make up less than a quarter of all positions in the film industry, and less than a third of all speaking roles. These are all jobs that women can do, they just need to be given the chance. So, do or do not. There is no try. The force is female." Oh boy, you guys. What Kathleen Kennedy did not understand is that women have always been given the chance, based on merit, not being a woman, or a person of color, or any specific group. Now we see what happens when women try to put their stamp on traditionally boy-centered media. They do what little girls do, like when Lego did their study. They insert themselves onto the characters and story. They have them do what they would do, rather than embracing what the character is and writing from the inspiration the character brought to them. One thing that KK isn't telling you here is that when she says less than a quarter of all positions in the industry, is that it includes grips, sound guys, laborers, janitors, guys that just move sets around and do all the grunt work. And the 1/3 of speaking roles or characters she's talking about are only accounting for the top 100 grossing films of, say, 2022 or 2021 or 2020. It's always the top 100 grossing films. And this is a strange thing to bring up in a lot of ways, and I'll tell you why. Film has always had more male speaking roles than women in general. This is true. So some people like Kathy want to change that, and her strategy is to preside over a male-centric IP. And this goes for Marvel execs as well. And then try to flip said male-centric IP to be run by women. Really? That's the strategy? Well, it is. Because it's not about having more women, it's about bringing down the men. Just look at Barbie. Total girl power throughout the production, but it was geared towards females, and it made a pile of money. So if KK and others want more women, then write movies for women. Don't take what was already built more for males and try to change it. That's a strategy doomed to fail, and the further they go down this road, the worse it's getting and the bigger the drop in revenue. All that to say, Star Wars is controlled at the top primarily by women, with a few heavy feminist sympathizers like Filoni, and it is going down the tubes. Why didn't they make a new series for women? Because again, it's not about lifting up women, it's only about bringing down men. Making Luke a loser in an attempt to drive the audience towards Rey is the prime example. And it didn't work. Like I mentioned with Barbie, why don't you just write something new? Write a new sci-fi IP that's women-centric. In fact, based on the trailers, there's pretty heavy woman-centric new sci-fi IP coming out in December called Rebel Moon. Now, we'll see how far down that road they go, but the main character's obviously a woman, and there's quite a few strong women in that movie. And that's a guy doing that. So why aren't these women doing that? Because it's not about that. It's about bringing down men. It's not enough to write something new. Maybe they're not capable of that. Maybe that's the problem. Then we move on to Rian Johnson and the subverting of expectations. For The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson was asked why he made a movie that subverted expectations, and he said, "Unless Star Wars grows and changes, it will calcify and become stale." In a way, Johnson isn't wrong in this statement. It's true, if they never changed anything, it would become stale. But we now know that change for change's sake creates apathy. The main driver of his idea when it came to Star Wars was to subvert our expectations when it came to who Luke Skywalker was. So, Rian Johnson subsequently changed his entire character, and it was completely off. Is this what he meant when he said it would become stale? That it would become stale unless they destroy the most beloved character in the entire franchise? How exactly is this preventing the IP from calcifying? Are they avoiding it being stale, even if it means angering and rejecting a massive portion of your fan base? If so, yet again, this is utterly ignorant strategy. And as we saw, this strategy made people so mad that another beloved character, Han Solo, had a movie made about his earlier life, and no one went to see it 6 months after The Last Jedi came out. The proof is in the pudding. These strategies simply didn't work, and destroying Luke was more of a tactic to drive the audience towards the main female than it was just subverting expectations. And it failed. So what are they thinking? Recently, Taika Waititi, sorry, is just another example, saying that his new Star Wars movie is going to piss people off. What people? Fans? Male fans? Another example of using Star Wars for their own personal attention grabbing or their own cause. Then we get into Justin Ireland. She essentially said that the High Republic isn't for white people. Before the release of her High Republic book, Justin Ireland tweeted, "I guess mediocre white men are still going to be on here bragging about their mediocrity as though it's a hilarious anecdote instead of pure assholery, So thanks for establishing that baseline early, 2021. If this isn't just the irony of ironies, a black woman who calls white men mediocre as she's working for a company and working on Star Wars, which was created by a white man and directed by white men and features white people and made a crap ton of money and changed and was literally a cultural heritage in America. And she's sitting there saying that white men are bragging about their mediocrity while working in that IP. Can you imagine how crazy that is? That is absolute craziness. What are you saying? And it's quite frankly hypocritical. Go make your own thing. If white men are so mediocre, why are you working for an IP that was established by white men? Why don't you go make something else? Why don't you go write your own story there, Justin? But imagine any business allowing this level of racist rhetoric from an employee without immediately dismissal of said employee. The fact that she wasn't fired speaks volumes about KK's backwards strategy once again. She has also echoed KK's sentiment that Hollywood needs more female representation. But of course, instead of making new interesting stories for women and girls, they try and change an existing IP that was already popular, avoiding any real legwork an inaugural story would entail. This is just pure laziness, by the way, and KK has more than enough money to finance such an endeavor herself. Something that's more for females. But they're too lazy to do that. They want to take something that a white man made and change it. Here is just one other example of many, many racist tweets veiled in social justice from Ireland. She says, "I wish Netflix would put as much effort into creating shows with black kids as main characters as it does in creating movies and shows with plucky white kids as main characters." What? First of all, there's lots of black people on Netflix. What are you even talking about? And I would also suggest that based on population levels, having more white people in movies and television is actually very normal. And we know that there are so many shows with practically all black casts, even movies too, of course. And an entire television station dedicated to black-only programming. At 16% of the population, black people are very well represented in the entertainment industry. If you feel so inclined, look into her many other totally racist tweets and ask yourself why KK would allow these things. And then compare those tweets to Gina Carano. And it's easy to see that they are treating Star Wars with utter contempt and using it for their own personal agendas. And then, of course, it's this woman who hosts a web series about Star Wars Rebels, and she literally does a talking point with a picture of Luke at her desk with his face crossed out, which is just the most childish thing. Can you imagine? It reminds me of it's like the burn book from Mean Girls, right? Like, I'm going to X out this, or I'm going to X out the yearbook photo of my enemy. Yeah. And these are grown people. Like, this woman's got to be like 40. It's so immature and so pathetic. It's pretty clear it's not that they hated Luke. It's that they just hate that he's a man, especially a white one. Because why would you take responsibility for you not making your own amazing story or taking your own amazing initiative and doing something cool? Instead, it's, no, I'm just going to bash, and like I said earlier, an established IP that was made by a white man. I can't do it myself, but I'm going to twist and turn his thing into what I want because I just don't know how to do it. So I'll just pretend that it's bad, and I'm going to do it now. It's it's so childish and sad and pathetic. And this, again, was a culturally iconic IP that is just circling the bowl. What this all ultimately comes down to was KK's attempt to get boys and men to keep supporting a female-centric Star Wars while garnering new female viewers, which of course failed miserably, and you were bashing dudes the whole time. What did you think was going to happen? In fact, men would be fools to support this IP when they blatantly announce that they will never make stories you like about them. I'm going to end this video with this quote from Peter Jackson after winning an Oscar for Lord of the Rings. "We made a promise to ourselves at the beginning of the process that we weren't going to put any of our own politics, our own messages, or our own themes into these movies. In a way, we were trying to make these films for him, Tolkien, not for ourselves." And isn't that the most stark contrast to these people that make everything about them, everything for them? They don't care who it impacts. They don't care if they bring Star Wars down to the gutter. It's all about them. It's not about the fans. It's not about George. And folks, if you're still listening, it ain't about you. So maybe it's time to look the other way.